Welcome. I'm talking today with Charlene Notgrass of Notgrass History. Charlene, thanks for joining me at the Learning House today, virtually, so that we can chat a little bit about your resources.
It's a joy to be with you, Corey.
I love it when we've been able to chat in the past and hear a little bit about your story and hear your heart, hear why you've come up with these resources. Would you start by telling us a little bit about your own homeschooling journey?
Well, our kids started out in public school, even though I heard about homeschool before our oldest started kindergarten, but my husband thought I was absolutely nuts. My husband, who now writes homeschool history curriculum, he said, children need to be in school, And, but anyway, after our experience in public schools with a bully who terrorized our dog, not all year, but he spit glue in her face one day and he kissed her on the lips one day. And I said, Mariama, why didn't you get out of line? And I mean, why didn't you move? And she said, I'd have to get out of line. She was such a quiet little thing. So anyway, and just content that did not fit with our Christian values, etc. So when our children were in 6th grade, 4th grade, and 1st grade, we started homeschooling. And we homeschooled for 2 years. And I tried really, really way too hard and made it very difficult. I was just feeling too much pressure to do it absolutely right and all of that. We quit for 2 years. And when we came back, we made homeschooling who we were. We educated the whole child. We learned to think way outside the box. And it became just this absolute joy. And then after, when our youngest was getting close to graduation, we decided to start writing homeschool curriculum for other people based on what we had learned in our journey.
I love it that you pointed out that it doesn't always go smoothly, can be messy. I know homeschooling is not for the faint of heart. And by the grace of God, we get through these things, and we don't have to be perfect at it. But I think one of the big things we learned very early on, thankfully, because of great friends and family that had gone before us, was just to make that the curriculum, the resources, the schedules are our helpers, but they aren't our masters.
Exactly.
We can often become slave to a system that is just a different system.
And I don't know, Corey, if you know this, but that experience of that 2 years of Valley when I quit and before we came back, that is the reason that I write a blog of encouragement for homeschooling mothers 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. It's called Daily Encouragement for Homeschooling Mothers.
Okay.
And I write that because I did not have anybody to help me keep going. I think if I had just had some encouragement, I wouldn't have quit. And so I am very passionate about helping other mothers stick it out when they have those hard times so they can find the great joy that it can be.
Right. And it's so true. We'll make sure that we get a link to that so that families can take a look at that, because we really need that. Choosing the right resources is just such a small part of what homeschooling successfully can be. And it is about rightly putting our priorities towards the right things. It's not about getting all the math and the science and the history into these little brains, but about getting them rightly oriented towards their God, in relationship with God and relationship with the people around them. It's about mom making sure that she's connected to people who can encourage and teach and help her and guide her along. There's so many things that we need to make homeschooling a peaceful journey.
when we came back, we decided our purpose of homeschooling was so that we and our children and their spouses and their children and every generation from Ray and me forward would live faithful to him on earth and live with each other together in heaven with him
Sweet.
forever. And when that became our goal, it just changed everything. I just keep using the word joy because that's what it became for us. I can give you a copy of this, Corey. I wrote out 19 goals, objectives, but that was our main goal was the what I just said. But I don't know how I came up with 19. That's just what seemed important to me. But it was like know the math, learn the math they need to know history, be good communicators, be uniquely God's man or woman, know God's word. I just made this list of 19 things, and I just decided that whatever resources I used had to help me help my children reach those goals. And that was what was most important. And all the homeschool resources were just tools to help our children become the people that God made them to be, using the gifts He gave to them.
And having that goal, that long-sighted or the vision for where we want our kids to be, certainly changes the way that we look at these resources. And I know that talking with moms and dads every day, I chat one-on-one with people, chat at conferences, and we talk about the math. What's the right science curriculum for us? But you can get lost in the forest for all the trees. And
Absolutely.
the end of that journey, I often ask people, what do you want to be able to say about this child when they're 30?
That's great. That's great.
And most of their answers don't have to do with how well they do in their science curriculum.
No. That curriculum is a tool. And it's very important that if God has made our child to be the one who finds a cure for cancer, that we make sure we provide them with the best tools for them to learn the science they need to know. That we are guides, helping our children become who God created them to be. And you will find this philosophy on every page of our curriculum because we see it as a tool. We do not see it as a taskmaster. If you read the beginning of our courses, our very important introductions to the parents is we don't beat your kids over the head with this curriculum. I've never said that in an introduction, but that's what I mean. Just use it the way it works best for your child. If this component doesn't work for you, don't worry about it. Don't do it. But here are some tools that people find effective, and you use which ones of them work for you.
So that being the case, I told you before we started that we only, in our family, I've graduated 3 of my kids. One is still homeschooling, and we only discovered Notgrass History maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And I thought, we got to add that to what these kids are being exposed to. And one of my daughters has gone through from Adam Just and also has finished the high school history course. And she just loved it. And she got into it. And there were so many pieces. She's like, I love it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do all the reading, I'm going to do the English, going to do the history, going to do the Bible. And then she got a couple weeks in and she went, whoa, there's a lot here. And then we dialed it back because there was other things she was also reading, and there was other English she was doing, and there was other Bible that she was studying. And so we had to kind of dial it back, but she went full on and enjoyed the history and did the full history portion of it, but there's other bits and pieces. So maybe I'm jumping ahead. Tell me about how Notgrass History combines multiple subjects and what that can look like for our students.
Well, a lot of, if we're not careful, we can buy lots of lots of curriculum, and then and they don't necessarily fit together. So in a year, let's say you were using Exploring World History, you can use that
Let me
for a
pull it off the
full.
shelf. Will you do this? I'm
Okay,
going to pull it off, and I'll show everybody on our little camera here. I've got the books behind me. But tell us about it.
we can start with Our Great Big World, which is, I see what you have up
Yeah.
there. Our Great Big World is for grades 1 through 4. And when I say 1 through 4, I mean it is a year's worth of material for students in grades 1, 2, 3, or 4. And of course, homeschoolers are flexible. If you have a fifth grader at a kindergarten and you want to do everybody together, you can make that work too. But it is designed specifically for grades 1, 2, 3, and 4. And like all of our curriculum, there is a lesson for a day, and you read the lesson. And as Corey flips through, you'll see we are all about beautiful illustrations that really help the student enjoy the course. So this is world geography for this youngest group. So the curriculum begins in the Middle East. And this particular curriculum has 3 lessons a week. As I recall, as I told Corey, we only started selling this one in July, and I proofread every
And
word of it.
this was one where we had people calling for it before we had it on the shelf. People were saying,
Oh,
"Well, we got to get this on the shelf," and we got it
yeah.
in as soon as we could.
They were doing that to us too.
Yeah, yeah. There
So
are 90 lessons here, so yeah, I guess that's 3 per week, approximately.
it's a unit,
Mhm.
and you go around the world. You start in the Middle East, and
Mhm.
then you go. Well, first there's a unit on the Earth, and
Mhm.
you learn about the Arctic and the Antarctica at the very beginning, and about the whole world that God created. And then we do 3 units on the Middle East, 4
Mhm.
on Africa, about 7 on Europe, etc. Just go through uh, the year that way. And so, Corey, let's just, why don't you turn to page 43, and let's look here. Uh, our daughter, Mary Evelyn, wrote this curriculum. It's absolutely phenomenal. And she contacted people around the world to get stories for this curriculum. But this one in particular, the Saving Books lesson, starting on page 44, is about a woman in Iraq during armed conflict there who worked really hard to save the books. She was a librarian, and she worked to save the books that were threatened to be destroyed in
Wow.
that war. And if you look on page 47, you actually see a photograph of this lady. So after you've read this lesson, the first thing you do in this curriculum, Mary Evelyn recommends that parents buy a globe to really help with this course. So
Mhm.
first they find Iraq on the globe, and then there's an atlas workbook that
Mhm.
comes with this curriculum.
Oh,
So
I
of course you have that handy.
do.
Then you would go. This would be lesson. Uh, And what I'm telling you is similar if you were doing one of our courses in high school. You
Mhm.
read a lesson, and then at the end of a lesson, it will give you other activities to do. Corey
This
turned to lesson 10 in the Atlas work. And let's see what we do today. So today, you've got a map of Iraq, and you're going to do activities like draw a tiny book inside the circle that marks the town that this lesson was about.
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to color Zagros, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, mountains brown. So you're just going to interact with this map, doing things that are appropriate for children in this age group. Then this book also has a coloring book, which I think is just really fantastic. If you'll go to lesson 10, a lot of these coloring pages are taken directly from the photographs that illustrate the books. But
Mm-hmm.
you're just going to color these books, but the student is seeing Arabic and
Mm-hmm.
and these are beautiful designs similar to the ones they've seen in the lesson, these fancy covers and all. So then, and okay, so
If
you
I
have,
had
what
sorry,
was that?
if I had a variety of ages of children, I like my little student in grade 1 might be ready to color
Exactly.
this, whereas my older student would be ready to take those instructions and
Exactly.
do circle this and draw on that and color this and so on. So,
So when you buy a package of Our Great Big World, you
mhm,
get all the components,
yeah,
but
I
you
get
can pick
6
and
books
choose,
here.
like she said, about what your student's going to do.
Mhm,
However, if you have two young students who want a coloring book, then you
mhm,
can buy an extra
yeah,
coloring book or an extra Alice workbook or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And then
Quite a few extra
this
pieces there that we
is
could get.
this folk tales and songs. So the next thing here, you read an introduction to the song that goes with. There's a wonderful collection of poetry and stories and songs from around the world that goes with this. And so you turn to page 10 in your folk tales and songs book, but you don't only, I mean, if you just read this, it wouldn't mean very much to your
No.
student because it's just kind of la, 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 la. But on, we have all of these recorded, and some of them by native speakers, not all of them, but some of them by native speakers. But you can actually listen to traditional Iraqi music after you read this lesson.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the possibility,
And
if you
those
want,
tracks, it says here, listen on track 7. It says here, listen on track 7. Those are from your website. I don't have to have,
right, you got
um, I don't have to purchase a separate
no, you don't
audio.
have to purchase anything separate.
Okay.
These are available for everybody. And then
Mhm.
there's a creative writing idea for, maybe your fourth grader can do a
Mhm.
creative writing idea. And then there is a book that goes along with that the students have the opportunity for you to read aloud or for the student to read 7
Right.
whole books that go along with this. And this one happens to be The Turtle of Oman, which is a delightful story about a Muslim boy. Now, this book is not promoting Christianity, it does not condemn Christianity. It's just a book that helps your student learn a little bit about the Muslim culture and Muslim religion. And anything that's questionable from a Christian perspective in any of these books, the answer key that comes with this curriculum tells the
Mhm.
parent exactly what might come up as you're reading it. I mean, a book like that I would read aloud. And
Right.
when we got to, say they were participating in the Muslim call to prayer or something, then I would just prepare my children before I read that part and we
Mhm.
would talk about it because I do think our children live in a world where there are Muslims and it's good to know
To
about.
understand our neighbors. Yeah.
Right. And how are we ever going to share the gospel with them if we don't respect them as human beings. So, and
Beautiful.
to save all of us, and wants us to teach everybody who hasn't already become a Christian. So when we say literature guide, answer key, this will give you answers. We have a book that's called the Lesson Review that has questions,
Yeah.
but we always write a literature guide for the parents, so they know how they can, what might come up that is questionable. Because as a Christian, history and geography and economics and all publisher, I can tell you, finding the literature is one of the most difficult things we do.
Yes.
So, I mean, I can't tell you how many books I read, and this wasn't the curriculum. I was writing. My daughter was writing it, but I read every book. Like I said, I read everything, and it was really, really difficult. Everything about this book is wonderful except page 63.
Yeah.
And man, I wish she hadn't said that. And so our solution has been to go ahead and include, and this is true from first grade through 12th grade. We go on and include the ones that we think have enough value. We tell the parent ahead of time, this is what you're going to encounter. So be aware. And, you may choose not to read this. That's your choice. That's okay. We're not, judging anybody about that or saying you've got to. But we're just offering you some reviewed material that seemed valuable to us. We have already gotten a big complaint about The Turtle of Oman. I thought it was an absolutely delightful book. Not to say that I didn't suggest that we point out a few things, but it's such a close relationship between a little boy and his grandfather that is so valuable to me. That, right, Corey? We want these children encouraged to have close relationships with their grandparents.
Yes.
And so it does that really well, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And we always say here at the store, our goal is to provide resources that are appropriate for a Christian homeschooling family. And that means that this is what we feel is appropriate, but that doesn't mean that everybody is going to feel that that's appropriate for their Christian homeschooling family. We all have different needs and tolerances and abilities to work with different resources. So what we decide is appropriate, you got to evaluate that for you as a family. And secondly, we serve a lot of families that are not Christian families as well. And we want them to know that we vetted this also not to be something that is like a condemning of Islam or anything like that. We are looking at other lifestyles respectfully, but learning about them from a Christian perspective. So we serve lots of secular families, lots of Muslim families, lots of families that have many different backgrounds. And we want them to know that really what we've looked for is high quality materials here.
Yes, right.
So,
now, one thing everybody needs to know about our curriculum is that it is distinctly Christian. But one of my very favorite stories ever is this was when I was traveling to conventions. A mother came to our booth, and she specifically wanted a secular American history. And I said, just let me show you, what we have. And I explained to her that it was Christian. Well, she bought it because she loved the beauty of the book. And she and I had connected well in this conversation. Well, years later, she wrote me. I may cry telling you this story. She said, I started out just reading the lessons. We have a Bible verse at the end of every lesson in all our curriculum. And she would just skip the Bible verse. And she said, and then I started reading the Bible verses. And then in the end, she said, I and all my children are now Christians. And I say that I homeschooled my way into the arms of Jesus. Oh, it
Mm,
just,
sweet.
you know, that boy, that'll make
Hmm.
your decade,
Yeah,
spots
yeah.
like that. So,
I love
um,
those kinds of stories. We've heard these
yeah,
from many secular families who've said, "I see what you have with this homeschool thing is working well, and we want that." And then later they come back and say, "And I think there's something more to it than just the books." And,
uh,
and what a treat to just be a part of someone's spiritual journey when
yeah.
we see that this is a life-giving formula and
Mhm.
opportunity that we want people to have. And I'm not going to throw it at and force this on anybody, but man, if you could have that life-giving opportunity, I would just love to share that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
neat. So neat. So in the day to day, there's a lot there. And just to think of sitting down and doing all of that with, say, a 6 or a 7 or an 8-year-old, I could easily get overwhelmed. What
But
what should I do?
it's, it's 3 days a week.
Mhm.
So we also offer a hands-on project every week. I didn't show you that in the
Yeah.
book, but every unit
Mhm.
has a recipe. Okay, you're in the Middle East, so you're going to make hummus, that kind of thing.
I'm
And
down. That's
uh,
good.
but
Mhm.
okay, so this is the time. This is a way to start thinking outside the box. Listen
Mhm.
to the music on the way to the grocery store.
Mhm.
To make the hummus for family night. You don't have to do all of this. I mean, I like for our great big world, I hate for the kids not to get to, enjoy a lot of these activities. And so it's only 3 days a week.
Mhm.
So, read a lesson, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If you want to color the picture, do that.
You're listening to your
And then
lesson.
Tuesday and Thursday, just try to start thinking about how you're learning all the time. And that's back, let me talk about a little bit about the high school in that connection. Um, so the reason we started writing English and history together is because my husband, when he was in 1 year of high school, we really believe God orchestrated this because it was only done for 1 year, and it was the year Ray Notgrass took. Uh,
Mhm.
it happened to be American history and American literature, but it could have been world history and world literature. And his history teacher and his English teacher, just for that 1 year, coordinated what they were doing. So when he was studying one time period in history, his English teacher would assign a um, a book that was related to that time period. His history teacher also required his students to read primary sources. And so all of our curriculum down to first grade
Mhm.
has primary sources. In our great
Mhm.
world, those primary sources are folk
Yes.
tales and
Yes.
songs. That's a primary source too. It doesn't have to be the Canadian Constitution.
Mhm.
Uh, Now, that's a great primary source to use for Canadian government in high school. But
Mhm.
and our like our world history includes famous speeches and other primary sources. But anyway, what I'm trying to get to is, okay, so let's say your student is doing world history this year. Why not go on and do world literature? Why not be for English? I mean, yeah, for English, why not be writing about what you're learning in your world history,
Mhm.
reading books related to what you're learning in world history, rather than, this year do world history for your history credit and doing Canadian literature for your
Right.
English. You can need to help your student who feels overwhelmed sometimes to realize I'm not giving you anything else for language arts, but what you're getting in Notgrass history. I'm not requiring, and I think sometimes parents are scared to just really, can I just do
Jump outside
this?
the box.
That be okay? Well,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to learn so much more than if your writing assignment is. Oh, I can't think of anything, but just do a paper that discusses the pros and cons of euthanasia or abortion
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or
That's not
whatever.
related to the
Why
other
not,
subject.
why not be writing about the Berlin Wall? When you're studying, the time period of the USSR
Mm-hmm.
domination of the world, of Eastern Europe and all of that. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I mean. And even in high school, we offer projects like write a videotape yourself doing a newscast about um, the bombing of England in World War II, or whatever. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
when you start thinking that I'm writing about this, I'm reading about this, I'm learning about this, I'm doing projects about this. It's just so rich and fun, and we would go to a museum where we can see objects. And now, I mean, we didn't have the internet to to rely on when we were homeschooling, but now we'd be watching documentaries and YouTube videos and a tour
Mm-hmm.
through a museum that you can watch on YouTube. I mean, it's always best when you can do it hands-on,
Yeah.
but there are very few people
Yeah.
who can study world history and go to every country they're studying about while they're doing it. I suppose there are a few people who can do that, but I don't know any. So anyway,
I
that's
I love that opportunity, and to temper it towards what we need. Like we have done, and I said this, my daughter has done from Adam to us. When we started out, I looked at that and I said, that's way too much to do in a year. We'll spread that over 2 years. And actually we did. We could have done it in a year. After I looked at it and I realized, oh, the pace of this, like these are big fat books, but it's because they're beautiful. There's a lot of
they put a lot of pictures in there.
beautiful pictures, and we could have gone through that much more quickly. But then my daughter had the time to do the maps, do the timelines, do
Mhm.
some of the readings, and so on. And it was really, really enjoyable. Now, the next course, the Exploring World History, she did the whole thing in 1 year. The course comes with um, two great big volumes, and then those source documents as well, and other pieces like the student review and quiz and exam book and so on. There's a lot there, but it doesn't have to be heavy, and you can pick and choose and say, you know what, we actually are really liking this literature course that we're already doing. There's some
Yeah,
really good books there, and we might choose 2 or 3 of them, or
right.
we do all of them, or we could, and there's the ability to sort of pick and choose. And to be honest, now that she's gone through those courses, I have gone through a few of the literature pieces, and we are slowly between us meandering through the rest of them because we didn't get them all in because we were doing
Oh,
other things for literature and for Bible.
fun.
Yeah, and so enjoyable, so enjoyable.
I'm so thankful.
Tell me, this kind of seems like a Charlotte Mason-y style of learning. Did you focus on making this a Charlotte Mason style, or does this meet different styles or educational methodologies or philosophies, or what was your thoughts with regards to the style of educating?
Well, this is, like I was saying, we homeschooled for 2 years, then we quit, and then we came back. And I regret those years that I lost. I've apologized to my children, but that happening in our family has helped me help other people not do that. I'm absolutely sure that my
Mhm.
going through that and sharing that with other people has kept some other people from not, quitting. So
Mhm.
God still used it, even though I'm sad when I think back on it. But um, Okay, I thought I was going to with that.
With this Charlotte Mason style of learning
Yeah,
and or other styles of learning.
yes, here, this is when we came back, we just were so eclectic. We just picked and chose and just had this extremely rich experience. And I, during those 2 years that were so hard for me, 1 year of those, I used a purchased unit study
Mm-hmm.
that was absolutely fantastic and completely overwhelming. Just go do this, go do that, go find this book, go do that. And, you can't find the books. You're always pulling things together. It says, make this, but you got to find the recipe and all of
Mm-hmm.
that. And
Mm-hmm.
so while we had a lot of fun, even those 2 years when I felt overwhelmed, we were having a blast. But Mama
Yeah.
was drowning. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, um, what we wanted to create was that kind of experience that we had in a form that other people could use, other people who would never choose that for their children because it wasn't the mother's personality. The mother was maybe fearful of trying it. Maybe she had
Mm-hmm.
10 children and was taking care of her grandmother in her house, and her husband just lost his
We
job.
that's it.
Whatever.
We work
There
with so many families with so many different needs. Yeah.
there are all these reasons that people, and not criticizing anybody, but we wanted to get, for that overwhelmed mother, we wanted to give her an opportunity for her children to have one of these rich experiences without her having to pull it together. We
Mm-hmm.
wanted to pull it together for her,
Mm-hmm.
uh, so that her child didn't end up, just sitting in front of a computer screen
Mm-hmm.
doing something.
Check.
I mean, that
Correct.
works for some
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
I'm not condemning anybody who's done that. And it might be something you really need to do for one course, or it might be something you really need to do for a whole year. And I don't want to make anybody feel guilty if they've been doing it for 10. But we wanted to give them an alternative.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Here we are handing this rich educational experience to
Mm-hmm.
you that you can use as a tool. You don't have to do it all, but here are some choices. But we don't, uh, in high school, the
Mm-hmm.
student will have to go find their own recipe. They will have to come up with their own news program. But
Mm-hmm.
up through the 8th grade, you got it. It's right there.
Yep.
If we say, well, this would be a great time to make hummus, you've got your
That's
recipe.
right. Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
because in high school we're expecting the student, not the mother. Now, all the
We're doing
primary
it. Yeah.
thing the mother would have to do, like the primary resources or choosing literature or writing questions that go with the lessons. We've done all of that,
Yes.
but
And
the
I think
student
let
but
me
the student has to, complete. They don't have to, but we suggest they complete a project every week. It might be writing, it might be drama, it might be art, it
I'm
might
gonna
be cooking, it might be sewing.
let me pull this out, and from Adam to Us is a good example of this. That you've got. There's quite a lot here. These are our main texts. That source document. You've got a timeline, a map book, and a answer key. But there's also these extra pieces like the review book and the student workbook and the review book for those families who need something that's a little more traditional and curricular. Or if you live in an area where you're required to have workbooks to work through and some quantifiable things like quizzes and tests and so on. There's so much here But you might say, hey, we're not going to do that map book. I mean, it's so helpful to do that map book. But at the same time, if you want to do the review book instead, or to work in the workbook instead, or to say, hey, we're going to spend that time reading all these good books, then there's so much that you can do and tailor it. If you want that Charlotte Mason style, I just love the stacks of books that are available for each of these curriculums. But if you want a more traditional curricular style and you're like, you know what, we're not really big novel readers, we'll read one or two of them, but we really need a workbook that can help us to give bones to what we're doing, then you've got them. And
It's
like,
okay. We just see ourselves as providing tools for as many learning styles as we can. And also, it's economical if you're doing it with 2 or 3 kids at the same time. Then, maybe you want to buy a workbook for everybody. They're not very expensive. Our workbooks are very, very reasonable, I think. And but you can just buy one set of the books of the package, and then you need an extra this or an extra that, then you can do that.
Yeah. There's in terms of what you get with these great big colorful hardcover books, it's a very economical curriculum, and I really like that as well. Other curriculums as well may spread world history over many years. I love that for a family who says, listen, we haven't done a lot of world history, and here we are, we're in grade 6 or grade 7. We really want to look at world history. From Adam to Us is one where we can look at all of world history in 1 year, or spread it over 2 years and do all the books and do all the reviews and do all the quizzes and whatever. But there's so much there in 1 year's worth of curriculum. So
I want to say something about that 1 year. That was you have to decide how you're going to do it. There are a variety of curricula out there that offers world history in over a time period. I'm working on a world history for grades 1 through 4 right now. And like when I say 1 through 4, I mean for students in grade 1, 2, 3, or 4.
A 1 year curriculum.
Lasts for 4. It's not a 4-year curriculum. It is a curriculum that's appropriate for those ages. A 1 year curriculum appropriate for those ages. But what our plan as a company is that 1 year a student would do world history in grades 1, 2, 3, or 4. That would be our new one that doesn't have a title. And then they would do From Adam to Us sometime between 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then they would do Exploring World History when they're in high school. And the same way with World Geography. We finished the World Geography for grades 1, 2, 3, or 4, and finished the World Geography for 9, 10, 11, or 12. And then we still have to come in the future at 1 for 5, 6, 7.
So just to be clear, Our Great Big World is aimed at early elementary. Exploring World Geography is for high school, and you're working on that middle school option.
Right, exactly.
Okay, but then conversely, From Adam to Us is for middle school. Exploring World History is for high school, and you're working on that early elementary option.
Exactly. Right.
And our families are going to be so excited about that when they come out, because like I told you earlier, Charlene, we had people calling us before this was published and saying, when are you going to get this in? Because they knew that they wanted to have that. So we got that in as soon as we could. And people have loved it. And we have just, the novels that you've chosen for them have been just really neat. And I'm looking forward to reading some more of those, even though I don't have any little ones in grades 1 to 4. So we're past that stage. But just to summarize, you have resources right from grades 1 to grade 12, still filling in a couple of pieces that will be published eventually, but history and geography for beginning, middle, and older, as well as some other courses. So you do have,
courses are all American oriented.
Right. So we do have American specific history for various levels. That's not something that we list, but we do have families special order them. And if your family wants to study American history in this style, then we can certainly order those for you. And we do have that economics course which is right up here behind me. Doo, doo, doo.
It's a one semester course for high school.
Mhm.
And just like the others, it has the book of primary sources and
Yeah.
it has 4 other books, 4 fantastic books, by the
Mhm.
way, to
Mhm.
read. The Travels of the T-Shirt
Yes, that was one I read a couple of years ago. It was very interesting.
is fascinating. And then
Fascinating. Yeah.
Silas Marner, which
Mhm.
is about a miser who learns to be a giving person through life events. It's great. And then there's one about
There's Silas Lapham.
Silas Lapham is a great story
Mhm.
about a man who did not, I think he was either from Canada or from New England. I can't remember which right now, but he uh he did not he I think his field was heavy equipment, if I'm not mistaken. And
Yeah, we
he
just put
did
in.
not give away, he did not tithe. He kept 10% and gave 90%.
Wow.
Not too long ago, somebody, I guess it was a homeschooling parent maybe, who worked at one of the camps he donated to, contacted us. That was cool to see that some of his work was continuing. And I can't remember what the full
Neat. Neat.
economics, but
The
anyway.
fourth one for economics is this one.
Oh, that's the one that he gives everything away. The other one, I think, is about a businessman who rose and fell. Yeah, the rise of Silas Lapham. I think that
Yeah.
I forgot. Yeah,
Rapid
it's
industrialization. Yeah.
it's that other one, the Mover book, that's about the man who gave 90% of his income away to help other
Yeah.
people.
Neat. Neat. Well,
But
those are
those are
great reading
great things
tips.
for high school students to be thinking about.
Yes. Yeah.
To me,
For sure.
yeah.
For sure. So looking kind of at microeconomics and macroeconomics as well, is that the case?
I'm sorry.
Is that the case then that we're looking at both microeconomics and macroeconomics?
Yes, we are.
Mhm. Very neat. Well, this has been a phenomenal overview. We've chatted about a lot of things. You've got resources from very little age all the way up, which is nice now with this our great big world. And because we haven't accessed as many of your American specific resources, though we can, and our families know that we will special order those items, even if they're not on our website. But so neat to know that we can help to resource families with these really rich texts and resources and amazing reading lists. On our own website, you can get just the textbook kit, or you can get the textbook with all the novels, or you can get the novels separately. And a lot of families will just say, I love those novels. Let's, pick and choose from them while we do the curriculum, or just to get them for their own home libraries and stuff. Do you have any tips for us, Charlene, before I let you go? Thanks for spending the time with me and taking this extra time. But do you have any tips for our families to help them to thrive in their learning with their children from your many years of experience as a homeschooling mom, but also as a curriculum provider?
Remember that you're the mother first. Your children need you as their mother way more than they need you as their teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And relax and realize that time is on your side. You are educating whole children, not just pouring knowledge into their heads. And just enjoy every minute of it. They'll grow up and they won't be there anymore, and everything will change. And if
Mm-hmm.
you're like I am, you will desperately miss it. If God let me go back in time, 40 years and start all over again in homeschool, I'd just be thrilled to death. I
Mm-hmm.
was not one of those mothers who was phew, that's over. It was more like, oh, I miss it.
Mm-hmm.
So enjoy every.
Yeah, there's so much to be said for the relational piece of homeschooling. We can teach them all the math and the science and the grammar and so on, but the relational part, and you've seen that, and we've seen that in our family, that we have really reaped the benefits of having those close family ties. Our kids love being around each other. We love being around our kids, and they love the Lord, and those are the right relational ties to make. So
It's just so much more important than any that and their relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and you alluded to that in what you said.
Mm-hmm.
That's what really matters. It was a joy to me when our children were teenagers to see them get to spend so much time together.
Yeah.
It made me think back on my own teenage years and grieve that I didn't know to take advantage of that more with my only sibling. We're close now, and I'm really grateful for that. But we could
Mm-hmm.
have spent a lot more time together as teenagers. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm proud on that because I was out with my friends and because, I didn't know any better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I love it now. Like, my kids live far and wide, as I've told you. And when they get together, it's just such a sweet time to know that they really enjoy being together. So thanks for taking the time, Charlene. This is always a treat to chat with you. And we just so love your resources in our homeschool. We love sharing them with families across the country. I appreciate you taking the time with us today.
Thank you. I enjoyed